All right. Welcome in, everybody. Hope y'all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take. This is the 2025 preview series, and today we are moving to the AFC North, and we got to talk about the Browns. And for Cleveland fans, I'm sorry, I love you, but we're not going to be having a very friendly discussion today. When I did research on the Browns and what they did in their offseason, it drove me up a wall at how terrible, in my opinion, their offseason was. And it's so bad in which I really don't think the Browns are going to be that much better than what they were last year. It's rough. It's really, really rough. But let's break it all down. If you guys are new here and you guys don't know how this series works, let me explain it for you really, really quick. For those of you that do and want to just go ahead and jump right into the discussion, the timestamp is going to be in the playhead in the video and also in the video description. But here's how we're going to do this. We're going to first briefly recap last season, along with, just talking about their offseason, mentioning their free agency additions, losses, who they drafted, along with mentioning any coaching changes. And then we'll cap that off with answering the question, is this team improved? After that, we'll jump into what I think this team is going to look like. Are they going to be good, bad, mid? And then also mention some strengths and weaknesses and pretty much break down their roster. Maybe not like to a very high detailed degree, but pretty much to a summarized, simplified version where, okay, here's where you're going to see the Browns be good, where they're going to be bad at, and whatnot. And then after that, we'll analyze their schedule. We're going to see how easy it is, how hard it is, identify some key matchups that I think are really important, along with concluding with a division outlook where we're going to have them finishing, whether they're going to make the playoffs or not. And then ultimately, we'll cap that off with any win-loss prediction for 2025. And then after that, we'll just kind of wrap the bow on the whole thing, talking about some storylines and some reasons why I will be keeping my eye on the Cleveland Browns. With that being said, let's break it all down. So we got to go back to 2024 and where this team left off. And they left off in a pretty bad spot. They were 3-14. This team was straight cheeks. I think I may have took that out of the video. I don't know if I did that. It's not very professional of me. I apologize, but it is pretty funny. They were straight cheeks, though. I mean, they finished with a second overall pick in the draft before they traded down, which we'll talk about in a second. And again, it was a typical Browns year. Once again, terrible quarterback play. There was nothing new. Offense was not good. And then when Nick Chubb came back from injury, he was not the same. He was the engine that made the offense somewhat fun to watch. He was really good, and then he got hurt, and he was never the same since. And at that point, the offense had nothing really going for it. And the defense, once again, was good. Jim Schwartz, again, is a good defensive coordinator. He came back after he was in Tennessee. Yeah, he was in Tennessee with the Tennessee Titans and then went to Cleveland to be their defensive coordinator. And this is going on his second or third year now. And their defense has been good. The problem is their offense is so bad, they're not helping this defense out at all. And this offseason, they have went out and tried to do their due diligence to fix this offense. They brought in a whole bunch of new coaches. Kevin Stefanski announced that he's going to be resuming play calling duties. And the second half of the year, he gave them to Ken Dorsey, who ended up leaving the organization this offseason. So he's going to be resuming that responsibility. And well, at least they're trying. You can see that they're trying to do something different. They're trying to bring in new, fresh faces to help fix things. And when you have a couple new quarterbacks, when you have a couple young running backs, you have a couple young receivers that you like, you want to get some fresh perspective in here and some fresh, well, I guess a lot of freshness, I guess. There's not really much more I can say there. But outside of that, the other big offseason notability the Browns had was giving Myles Garrett a big contract extension, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. I think that still stands right now. I think someone may have got paid and changed that. But at the time when he got paid, that's what it was. And I don't care what you say, the Browns had to wave a magic wand or do some type of voodoo magic to keep Myles Garrett in the building because he was super unhappy with the Browns and how bad they were. And I can't blame him. He's had to go through probably 1 to 2 rebuilds. No, 2 rebuilds. He's got to go through 2 rebuilds at this point, and he wants to win. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He wanted to get paid like it, but he also wanted to go win, requested a trade, and I don't know how they did it. They managed to pay him enough money to keep him stay, I guess, and I guess everybody's got a price. So that's unfortunate for Myles. I thought that him going to another team would have been inevitable, but the Browns somehow managed to make it work. And so that's good for them, I guess. Now they actually need to build a good team around Myles Garrett so he can not only be worth the contract, but he can also start making a bigger impact than just making sacks, tackles for losses, and being a perennial Pro Bowler and All-Pro on a terrible football team. But going into their free agency and looking at who they added, they brought back quarterback Joe Flacco to start, and I like the addition. You always want to have a good veteran in the room. Joe Flacco's been in the league for a long time, obviously. So, and also the last time he was here, he came in and he managed to keep the team afloat into going into the playoffs a couple years ago, despite how injured they were when Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year. And a lot of credit goes to Joe Flacco, so bringing him back it makes a lot of sense for them. And then wide receivers, they added Deontay Johnson, which Deontay Johnson, on ESPN's depth chart, he's slated to be the number 3 wide receiver. I think he's going to get cut at some point this season. Deontay Johnson, ever since he left Pittsburgh and got traded to Carolina, has done nothing. And then you hear the stuff about how horrible of a teammate he was in Houston and in Baltimore. No, Deontay Johnson's a nothing burger to me, so I think he's gone. DeAndre Carter, depth piece. They added tackles Cornelius Lucas and Jackson Barton, guard Tevin Jenkins. And then on the defensive side, they added some pretty solid, for mostly fringe starters. Malik Collins, he came from San Francisco. He's a good player. Joe Tryon, fringe starter. Jerome Baker, low-level starter. Julian Okwara, depth piece. And they brought in fringe starters DeMonte Casey and Rayshawn Jenkins. All of these guys are on 1-2 year deals. So I don't expect any of these guys to make a significant impact to me, quite frankly. They're all okay players, but there's nothing here that they added that constitutes that they look better. And then you look at what they lost, and they lost some pretty solid depth, in my opinion. They lost quarterback Jameis Winston, which Jameis Winston, wherever he goes, is always a blast, so that sucks. He got a win against Denver on Monday Night Football. Or no, I think the Broncos ended up winning that game, actually. I think I take that back. But he was fun to watch. He was great. And then they lost quarterback Bailey Zappi, who's fine. He's just moving around the league at this point. They lost Nick Chubb. They finally let him go, which that's an end of an era for Cleveland. Sad to see him go. That's very unfortunate. Nick Chubb was so good and so fun. And, well, he's gone now. He's now in Houston, where he's going to be the backup behind Joe Mixon. And then they also lost James Prochet and wide receiver Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore, they traded from the Jets, really didn't materialize into anything. That's unfortunate for him. And then they lost right tackle James Hudson, Garm Hakeem Adeniji, and they lost defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson. I would say maybe Malik Collins is either at least on the same level, if not higher. So a mostly lateral move. Then they lost corner Mike Ford, Juan Thornhill as a starter, DeAnthony Bell as a backup left, and also Charlie Hewlett as long snapper. Got to give love to those guys too. So those guys left. I would say overall they probably lost more than what they gained. It might be the same, actually. Now that I'm thinking more about it, it is more of the same. And for the Browns, who have won 3 games, that's not good. That is not good at all. But also, you look at the lack of quality moves they made in free agency, and you look at the contract with Deshaun Watson, this new contract with Myles Garrett, and it's like, oh wow, they don't have any freaking money to make the moves they need to make. And so, if you're not going to have the money to be able to make moves in free agency, that means you got to do one thing right, and that is nail the draft. And did the Browns do that? Absolutely not. They did not. This draft, this might be a little bit of a bold take, but let me explain it here in a second. This is a horrible draft. This is a horrible draft for the Browns. Horrible might be overselling it. I just don't think this was a good draft class. Number 1, you took Mason Graham 5th overall. You traded down from number 2 to number 5 to take him, and the Browns need defensive tackle. That is a need, and also they didn't have a lot of draft picks, so they traded down to get more picks. I fully understand that. In my opinion, I would have just taken Travis Hunter. He's the better prospect. He's one of the 3 blue chip players, one of 2 maybe one of 3 I would call blue chip players in this draft class. Him, Abdul Carter, and Ashton Genty, and you decided to pass on that guy for Mason Graham, which some people argued that he wasn't even the best defensive tackle. That wasn't a very high conversation. It wasn't a very fruitful conversation for people. But at the same time, me personally, I would much rather have Travis Hunter than Mason Graham. But I get the idea. You're filling need there and trading down to get more draft picks. Fine. So what did they do with these draft picks? There's first pick in the second round, Carson Schlesinger. In my opinion, that was a reach. You could have got him at in the 40s, in the 50s. You could have got him much later than at pick 33. I like the player, but where you got him, not good value at all. And then they drafted running back Quinshon Judkins, who probably is going to replace Nick Chubb. And I really like this pick. Quinshon Judkins was he was kind of the lesser viewed running back because Travion Henderson and Ohio State kind of, popped everybody off because obviously he was a speedy acceleration guy. And also Quinshon Judkins was your more physical power runner. So to fill in that spot for Nick Chubb, now that who is gone, okay, I like the pick. I like the prospect. And then they drafted tight end Harold Fannin Jr., who was also a tight end prospect I really, really like, or really kind of like a big, giant receiver. And so very high ceiling. If you can develop that guy, he can be a really good tight end right next to David Njoku. And then here's where it starts to get really interesting. In the third round, 93rd overall, they picked quarterback Dillon Gabriel out of Oregon. And my opinion, Dillon Gabriel is not going to be anything more than a backup in the NFL turned coach. I don't think he has the qualities and the physical tools to be an NFL franchise quarterback, but that does not mean he's a bad player. I think he was really good in Oregon. Obviously, they were fantastic in 2024, but I don't like him being picked at 93rd overall. And then they pick Dylan Sampson, the running back out of Tennessee, another more physical runner, and I like the pick. Kind of. I mean, there's part of me that can justify it, not 100%, but at least I can see somewhat of the logic and reasoning. And then they draft quarterback Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, ending what was a crazy, historic draft slide for the Colorado quarterback. And here's why this draft was bad. Because you traded down to move off of Travis Hunter, mind you. You moved off of Travis Hunter to get Mason Graham to get more picks, and you only have 7 picks. You used 4 of them, that's more than half of them, on 2 positions. 2 positions. Picking 2 running backs, again, I can kind of justify it, but for a team with a lot of holes, what are you doing? The Browns are not in a position to be taking 2 running backs in a draft class. They're not in position for that. Along with taking 2 quarterbacks, that's the kicker. That's the real kicker. Picking Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, was objectively stupid. Say what you want about Shedeur Sanders in his draft slide and why it fell. I made a whole video on it months ago after it all happened. But Shedeur Sanders, if you're being honest, is an objectively better prospect than Dillon Gabriel. He has better size, better accuracy, better timing, all the little things that Shedeur Sanders did right in college, he did better at than Dillon Gabriel. Don't let Dillon Gabriel having a great year at Oregon confuse that and pretty much deceive that, if you will. And so, taking 2 quarterbacks, first off, the Browns, are they that devoid of quarterback play that they're picking 2 quarterbacks? It's one thing to pick one like what the Patriots did, picking Drake May in the top of the draft, and then in the 6th round picking Joe Milton. That's different. You're talking about a 3rd round pick and a 5th round pick. And the logic for the Browns when they drafted Shedeur was, best player available. Buddy, he was the best player available in the 3rd round when Dillon Gabriel was on the board when you picked him. What are you talking about? You don't do that with a quarterback. That right there is typical Browns mentality where, best player available, he's a quarterback, let's take him. No, if you're going to take a quarterback with a top 100 pick, you're picking him in the top 100 because you think that he could turn into something for you. And so then to go back in the 5th round to select Shedeur Sanders, who is a clearly better prospect, when you could have just taken him in the 3rd round and gotten great value anyways, is a waste. This is what this draft was for the Browns. For a team that needed more picks, they did a terrible job of managing their resources. It was garbage. They can't afford to spend 4 out of their 7 picks on 2 positions. This was a 3-win football team, and they absolutely screwed that up. I'm sorry. Say what you want about Mason Graham, Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin. Those are good picks. I like those players. But to draft 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks within 2 rounds of each other when you are a 3-win football team is blasphemy. It is ridiculous how horrible they mismanaged this draft. And I know part of it has to do with ownership. Jimmy Haslam is a bonehead who has no idea how to run an NFL football team. That's why the Browns have only had 3 or 4 winning seasons since coming back in 1999. That says a lot. Anyways, the other thing too is the Browns are a smaller market team. They could have had They realistically, looking back, could have gotten Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, the two lone faces in terms of players on Colorado's football team. Could you imagine if they had gotten Shedeur Sanders 93rd overall in the 3rd round, along with Travis Hunter 2nd overall? Not only would that be exciting, not only would be people talking about that would generate so much interest into the team. Casual fans would be interested in seeing the team. And from a branding and marketing perspective, it would have been, at least right now, a home run for the Browns. People would be talking about the Browns because of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter going to the same football team. When at the time, during the draft process before the draft started, people thought that was going to be impossible. Like, only 1 or 2 articles ever came out was someone talking about a team being able to get both players and how unrealistic it was. So the fact that they could have actually done that and they screwed that up, from a branding and marketing perspective, garbage. Terrible job by the Cleveland Browns. I'm sorry. Having Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter is a much better look than Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, because along with drafting Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd and then drafting Mason Graham, the marketing and the branding isn't there for that. And for a team that's so bad and they need recognition, need some excitement and intrigue into their franchise, they could have done that, and they somehow managed to screw it up when it was laying there right in their lap, looking back in retrospect. And obviously, there was no way to tell that was actually going to happen or that was a possibility. But looking back on it, they fumbled the bag. They dropped the football when it was right in their hands. They snapped defeat from the jaws of victory. This is so annoying, and this is why the Browns are the Browns. Prime example. Wasted their resources in the one spot that they actually have to be good at because they don't have money, because they're paying their quarterback and top edge rusher so much money. And then on top of that, they wasted their resources on 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, and then missed out on an opportunity for an actual rebrand, maybe not rebrand, but a branding and marketing boost for their franchise that is so desperately needed. Nobody cares about the Browns. Nobody's cared about the Browns since 2019, where everyone thought they'd be great and then they were garbage. No one has cared since then, other than Browns fans and some casual NFL fans like myself at the time. No, nobody cares. But if you had gotten Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, a lot of people would have cared, and the Browns screwed that up big time. But all that ranting aside about their offseason and their free agency and the draft, now you understand why this team, when I looked at their offseason, drove me up a wall when I was making this video. It's annoying. It's so annoying and frustrating when you have a team that was so bad continue to do bad things, whether it's a poor GM to a terrible, horrendous owner that's an absolute bonehead as my script falls over. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that we have to continuously talk about the Browns being the Browns every single year. So to answer the question, are they an improved football team? Absolutely not. This team has gotten nowhere. They have gotten absolutely nowhere whatsoever. And so leading into our next segment, I think this team is not going to be good. They're going to be bad. It's going to be another QB carousel yet again, which, by the way, 5 quarterbacks on the roster is absolutely stupid, because why would you trade for Kenny Pickett if you're going to draft 2 quarterbacks and bring in Joe Flacco? Why would you bring 4 quarterbacks in one offseason? That makes no sense. If you draft Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, and both of those guys make the roster, and you cut Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, great. You lost draft capital in a veteran quarterback, which is important for developing those 2 quarterbacks that you drafted. Or you get rid of one of those rookie quarterbacks, they're immediately going to get swiped up by another team instantly, no matter who it is. And then for the sake of, let's say, Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel becomes a franchise quarterback, then whoop-de-doo, you just wasted a draft pick for no reason. So, absolutely pointless. The team's not going to be good, but that's not to say that they do have some good things going for them, which, number one, is their offensive line. Their offensive line is always solid. They took a step back last year. They weren't as good as previous years, but I still think it's going to be a strength of this team, because it's still going to be good. And there's not a lot of good things to say about the Cleveland Browns. So, in a somewhat pity fashion, they're going to get the strength of offensive line, but their offensive line is going to be good anyways. So, I'm not going to really stress about it too much. Tight end is another strong thing. They have good depth. I love David Njoku as a tight end. Great player, great person. It's really easy to root for that guy. He's fantastic. And then drafting Harold Fannin. Not very often do I account for rookies into improving, how do I explain this? Sorry. I don't account for rookies very often unless it's a quarterback to make a big impact as a rookie year, because it's a crapshoot. You never know who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. But Harold Fannin, I think he's going to be solid. But honestly, it's because of David Njoku more specifically and the depth that they have. And again, more of pity because the Browns don't have very much good things going for them. But tight end is something that should be good for them as David Njoku continues to play great and Harold Fannin continues to develop. And then the secondary is probably the strongest thing on this team. Obviously, you have Denzel Ward, one of the best corners in the league. Grant Delpit, not Greedy Williams. Oh my gosh, what's his name? The other corner outside of Denzel Ward who's really good. I apologize, I can't remember his name right now. And they added Rayshon Jenkins, who's a fringe starter, depth piece. And I like their secondary. Their secondary is going to be the best part about this team, straight up. And that's unfortunate because their defensive line is going to be average, probably. Myles Garrett's going to be great, but everything else around him is not fantastic. Again, Mason Graham is a rookie, so we'll have to see, although he does bring a lot of excitement. And then the linebackers, Julian Okwara, I can't remember his full name. Oh my God. It was the young linebacker who was a Pro Bowler in 2023 who broke out. He's going to be coming back. And then Carson Swearinger is going to be taking one of those starting spots. They're going to be okay. Nothing too fantastic. And then weaknesses, it's easily quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Quarterback for obvious reasons. I'm not going to explain why the quarterback position for the Browns is a weak spot. It always is. Running back is more nuanced because you have two rookie running backs, Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins. Your number one running back is Jerome Ford, which whenever he was the starting lead back, he was not very good. And so Quinshon Judkins, I expect to quickly take running back one snaps. And if Dylan Sampson continues to go and improve, honestly, I'd much rather just run Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins and make Jerome Ford your third, just because you need rookies and young players to develop. And then on the back end, I can't remember who our fourth running back is, but when you have Jerome Ford, who's not a starting running back, who's not a running back one, and two rookies that probably will need time, I don't think the running game is going to be very good for Cleveland starting out. Maybe I'm wrong and one of those rookies pops off. That's always a possibility. But right now, I can't be too confident in the first half of the year for the Browns being good at the running back position. And then wide receiver is another one which I am not high on. Jerry Jeudy coming off a Pro Bowl year. He's great, had a career year. Excited for him. Number 2 wide receiver, Cedric Tillman. He's intriguing. The former receiver out of Tennessee. I like him. Had a couple of good games. He's caught a game-winning touchdown against Baltimore to beat them earlier in the year and upset the Ravens. And there's good things to like, but going into year 2, didn't do a whole lot. We'll have to see. More of an unknown than a proven commodity, obviously. And then the number 3 projected right now is Deontay Johnson. Again, I think this guy's getting cut. I'm not going to factor Deontay Johnson into anything until he actually does something. And given his tendency over the past couple teams he's been with to not be a good teammate, I don't believe that whatsoever. But what's new? The Browns need something, and at least Deontay Johnson is one of the most talented receivers on their depth chart, which is saying a lot. Jermari Thrash is intriguing. He was a late-round pick a year or two ago, I'm pretty sure. So we'll have to see. I don't think he's going to do very much. And after that, you got a bunch of nothing burgers. So the wide receiver group is bad, where if Jerry Jeudy gets hurt, if Jerry Jeudy goes down at any point, I'll knock on wood here, God forbid he does not. I hope he does not. If he goes down, the Browns are screwed. They're more screwed than they already are. Jerry Jeudy is probably the one thing that I can say about this offense that, oh yeah, he's going to be fine. He's going to be good. He's going to be reliable. He's going to be the one lone reason, at least in the first half of the year, that I'm going to be watching this Browns offense. Maybe Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins can do that for me. Harold Fannin could do that for me. They have young players that need to develop, and quite frankly, they need to develop sooner rather than later for the sake of the Browns. But Jerry Jeudy, the only thing right now I can say is going to be reliable, going to be good, and if he goes down, the Browns are screwed. So let's look at their schedule. Let's look at their schedule and what it looks like. And you want to know why the Browns are not going to be very good? Well, on top of a bad roster, look at these first 6 games, ladies and gentlemen. This is brutal. Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions, Vikings, Steelers. All but one of those teams were playoff teams last year. And the Bengals, I'll say this, the most winnable game on this list is the Bengals, because the Bengals love to have slow starts every year and absolutely come out sluggish like they just woke up out of bed with a hangover. So that game is winnable for the Browns. Ravens, maybe you can. It's on the road though, so that's not great. And the Packers, you're not beating the Packers, not beating the Lions, definitely not beating the Vikings or the Steelers. I'm sorry, you're simply not. Maybe you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe the Browns sometimes will get one over on them. It's not uncommon. So sure, maybe you can say at best they have 3 winnable games, but those are divisional games. You can't really count those as winnable compared to like the Packers and the Lions, because it's a divisional matchup. You know those teams best. Obviously, you're going to get one over on them at some point. That happens every year with every team and every divisional rivalry in the NFL. That's not new. So that's not great. The second half of the year, or second third of the year, is a little bit more manageable for the Browns, I should say. You got the Miami Dolphins. I don't think the Dolphins are going to be very good this year. The Patriots, they are still rebuilding. I don't know if they win that game. Maybe they can, potentially. It's one of the worst teams on their schedule. Then they go into a bye week, and then come off the bye week playing the Jets. These 2 horrible teams have to play every year. And quite frankly, this might be one game the Browns, I could say, yeah, they're probably going to win this game. The Jets might. This right here, the Jets, is their most winnable game on their schedule, straight up. That's just depressing. And then you host the Ravens, go to Las Vegas, maybe you pull an upset there, and then you host the 49ers, you're losing that game, you host the Titans. I just want to say this, as a Titans fan, there's no way the Titans are not beating the Browns, but for the sake of the argument, they are one of the easiest teams on their schedule. And then they finish out with the Bills, the Steelers, and the Bengals. So, yeah, this schedule, not only is it tough the beginning of the year, it gets a little bit more manageable in the second third, but not by much. And then this last third, I simply just, there's not, it's also brutal. It's also really tough. There's only, maybe they win 2 divisional games. Maybe they beat the Dolphins, the Jets, and then for the sake of argument, let's say they beat the Titans. Let's say that happens. You know, I can only see 5 wins max for this team, maybe 6 if they, you know, can really push that needle, but I highly doubt it. I very highly doubt it, and their most important matchups are going to be the Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, Titans, and those are the most winnable games on their schedule. Those are the most winnable games on their schedule, and so those are the ones that are most important, because if they don't win those, they're not winning any games. They're winning 2 games, maybe 1 game. So if they cannot pull off at least a couple wins against these bad teams on their schedule, then they have no hope whatsoever and would be trending backwards somehow, some way, if they couldn't win those games. And so wrapping that up with the schedule analysis, obviously, divisional-wise, I have them finishing 4th, not making the playoffs, obviously. But the final record for the Cleveland Browns, my official prediction for this team, there you have it, 4-13. I don't think their offseason was good. They mismanaged their resources in the draft absolutely horribly. I do not like it whatsoever. This team did nothing right now to make me feel confident about this team whatsoever, and there's really not much more I can say. Everything I've said about this team and why I'm not happy about it is I've all laid it out here. So how about we look at the storylines? Because there's not that many for the Browns either, considering it's a bad football team. Number 1 is the quarterback carousel. Deshaun Watson's not going to be ready till about the second half of the year, roughly. So who's going to be taking QB1 snaps? Is it going to be Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett? Who knows? Because I know it's not going to be Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel, although I expect Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel to be starting games later in the year, because when Deshaun Watson comes back and he's not good, well, I take that back, because I've been on record for saying that Deshaun Watson is never going to play for the Browns again. Jimmy Haslam has openly called the trade for Deshaun Watson a mistake. They paid him way too much money. He's hurt. And when he's on the field, he is straight up garbage. There's no way around that. So, from Deshaun Watson's perspective, why would you ever suit up for the Browns again? Why would you? When the owner that pounded the table for you and stood up for you after all of the allegations you had against yourself, and now that guy's throwing you under the bus saying trading for you was a mistake, why would you ever suit up for the Browns again? Take the money and run. Go retire with a whole bunch of money and just go live a happy life as much as you can, Deshaun. Just do that. That's the best for you, in my opinion. If you want to go back and play, go back and play. I'm not going to be rooting for you. Sorry, I'm not. But other than that, the rookies and the young players. So Dylan Sampson, Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin, Cedric Tillman. So these guys specifically, they really need to step up for the Browns. The Browns need a good infusion of youth on the offensive side of the ball so bad. This is the only reason why I'm going to be watching the Browns with serious intrigue, because of these offensive rookies. They need to develop. They need to be good, because if they're not, the Browns will have nothing going for them again. This right here is what's going to either make this team better, or they're going to be absolutely lost more than they already are. And also, again, from a branding and marketing perspective, this is the only thing that intrigues me about the Browns, other than Myles Garrett and the secondary, this defense, I guess. On the offensive side, other than Jerry Jeudy, I have no reason to watch the Browns. I have no reason to. I will not be watching the Browns if they're on primetime, unless one of these rookies or a couple of these rookies start playing really, really well. And if they do, maybe the Browns will win more than 4 games. So we'll have to see, but that's the most important thing I'm going to be looking for the Browns in terms of actual intrigue to watch the team and interest. And then the third one, because I have them winning only 4 games, to me, it's only a matter of time that Andrew Berry, the GM, and Kevin Stefanski get fired. It's very possible that Kevin Stefanski is the first head coach fired in 2025, and his seat, in my opinion, is hotter than ever because Jimmy Haslam is a terrible owner. And it's unfortunate because when you work for a terrible owner, it's hard to do your best because they're constantly doing crazy, stupid crap that hinders your franchise. Trading for Deshaun Watson, that was not an Andrew Berry decision. That was a Jim Haslam decision. And that decision alone has crippled the Browns. Absolutely crippled them beyond repair. Not even stem cell research into a spine can get them to walk again with Deshaun Watson. Once they get rid of him, maybe a couple years after that, when all the money's unloaded, then they can finally start building something properly. So because of that issue, the terrible draft that they had, in my opinion, I'm just not intrigued about this team whatsoever. And because the team's going to be bad again, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are going to be fired. And even though it's unfair, at the same time, you got a terrible owner, and they didn't do enough anyways to supplement and make this team any better whatsoever. So with that being said, that's going to do it for us today talking about the Browns. Again, any Browns fans out there watching this video, I'm sorry that I just pretty much crapped on this team for 20 to 30 minutes. I just don't like this team whatsoever. But God forbid if they're good, then you know what? I'll be the first one to say that I'm wrong. But for me, I'm pretty confident the Browns are not going to be good this season. So that is going to do it for me today on this discussion. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And if you've made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe button. For the subscribers, we're at 96. We're trying to hit 100 before the season starts. And at this point, it's a guarantee. Just keep hitting those buttons. You guys are doing a fantastic job. So please, please, please keep it coming. And also, those 2 buttons, takes a couple of seconds, and it's free. If it's free, it's for me. You know what I'm saying? Along with that, make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think the Browns are going to be better? Do you think they're going to be worse? Do you think 4 wins is accurate for this football team? Let me know everything you guys have to say about this team down there. And lastly, make sure you guys share this video and also follow me on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. I'm getting ready to post social media clips summarizing these videos that I'm making on YouTube to those social media platforms, so keep an eye out for that. And make sure to share those when those come out too. I would greatly appreciate that. But for now, that's going to do it for me. We're going to continue with the AFC North this week. And we got to talk about the Bengals next, so keep an eye out for that once it comes out. But hope you guys have enjoyed for today. And as always, I will see you all next time.